computer started to lag in the middle of the intro, so I'm just going to go with it like we're actually here. I don't know what's going on. It's just one of those days. It's not Monday. Nope. It's definitely a Thursday, but we're going to roll with this. Welcome, everybody, to Toilets to Titles. This is your host, George. We are doing another one of our 32-team breakdowns. With me today is Tyler Drake. He is going to be talking to us about the Arizona Cardinals. Tyler, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about your background, and so they can get to know you, where they can follow your work.
Yeah. So my name is Tyler Drake. I work out here in Arizona, the desert. Arizona Sports is rated the main flagship radio station for Cardinals, Suns, whoever you want to, all the major teams out here. I'm the beat writer for the Cardinals. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. Been through the 2020 season where they got to the playoffs and shocked the world for the first half of the season. Had the 2021 of just very bad football, bad coaching, bad whatever you want to call it. So now we get the third year and we'll see how what transpires. Obviously, there's a lot going on, but yeah, you can follow me at tdrake4sports on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. It's the same handle. Instagram, same handle. And I'm originally from Northern California. Grew up, Bay Area teams. There's two of them, so always had football going on. And and then moved out here in about 2010. I went down to a U of A and not graduated, but transferred from there to go to ASU. So kind of got best of both worlds there, and now we're here. So I'm really glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you coming on. So the first question I ask every guest that comes on is, who is your favorite Arizona player, the Arizona Cardinals' favorite player in history? And I got to throw in the caveat that you cannot say Larry Fitzgerald.
That's a good one. Put me right on the spot right away. I like it. Let's
right away.
You know what? I gotta go with Kurt, man. I think I gotta go with Kurt Warner. I think the dude, just from what he did, coming back and really kind of shocking everybody and taking that team that really I don't think a lot of people expected to do what they did to the Super Bowl was pretty impressive. So I think he stands out right away. There's a couple guys. James Conner, relatively new guy, but just his story and everything behind him and just his grit and the way he talks about playing the game is just unmatched by other people. Like, this guy really cares about playing football and has been through the ringer off the field with dealing with cancer and beating that. And now, being a bruising running back, the bell cow of the Cardinals. I mean, really, 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 really good dude. And you can tell he just really cares about his game and he cares about the team. And so he's definitely one of the guys that really stands out to me, really just in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Anybody who knows James Conner's story, it's really hard not to cheer and like the guy and hope nothing but success for him. Like, it's truly a remarkable story that he has. Real quick, to those who are listening, you could, if you're watching the audio version, you can also follow us on all streaming platforms: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Facebook, Spotify, Twitch. Just search Toilets to Titles. Believe it or not, that was available on every single one. I was shocked. Nobody owned the Toilets to Titles name and logo. So follow us all there. Please don't forget to subscribe to Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. We do appreciate that. Let's start digging in a little bit. These are off-season reviews, but before we go into what happened so far in the off-season, I always like to take it back to a little bit to the previous season, because I believe that lays the foundation for this season. So what went right? What went wrong? What struggles or successes did the Cardinals have in the 2022 season?
Well, it's probably more struggles than anything.
And I know a lot went wrong.
Yeah, a lot went wrong. I mean, you start at the offensive line. You really couldn't keep a guy healthy outside of Kelvin Beachum. He was the only starter on the line, only offensive starter to play every game last season. That alone is a bad sign. Defensively, they only had Jalen Thompson, I believe, start every game. So that's another one of just, the availability factor was rough. And then you throw in the other factor of Kyler Murray goes down with a torn ACL after already kind of having a down year. He was already dealing with some injuries. And, just all around, it was just a really, really poor showing. It was a poor coaching performance from Cliff Kingsbury, which is why he got shown the door this year. And, from a GM side too, even though, Steve Keim resigned, but I think he was towards the end of the road too. Just his deals really weren't panning out. He was putting the team in a worse spot moving forward down the line, which we're seeing. And, Monty Osfort's trying his best to kind of redo all of the bad deals, or not redo, but kind of get over all the bad deals that Steve Keim orchestrated these past couple of years, which is trying to get big names in, veteran guys in. So there needs to be a lot that needs to happen with this team for them to really get back to relevancy. And I mean, number one is just getting Kyler back to healthy. And, outside of that, I'd say James Conner still was a solid piece to the puzzle, but obviously still that's a struggle too with having an offensive line that's just banged up. So having a competent offensive line, not competent, but just an available offensive line, have your starters available. And then you got the secondary really struggled. And now you've got to replace guys like a Zach Allen on the line, and you got Byron Murphy and as a cornerback you've got to replace. And it's just those two guys kind of were viewed as more, not maybe Byron Murphy as much, but Zach Allen was viewed in my eyes as more of a cornerstone for this team. And now they've really got to go back to the drawing board and really figure out who's going to lead this defense and who's going to lead the offense in the wake of, or until Kyler comes back from his injury.
So there's a lot that need to be done. You had free agency, we had the draft. What are some of your outside of the big trades that the Cardinals made? And we'll talk about the trading up to trading from 3 to 12 back to 6. We'll get to that here in a few minutes, because I have a pretty keen perspective on that. That I absolutely loved that move by the Cardinals. I absolutely loved that. I'm sure most people did. But outside of the trade back and then up, what are some of the key players that the Cardinals have brought in, and in the draft? What key players did they get in the draft that you're excited to see?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one's got to be Paris Johnson. I think they went out and really understood that they needed to get a guy that's going to come in right away and make a difference. And I think after what they saw last year with how that line really struggled, getting a guy that can be versatile, that can come onto the outside, he can move onto the inside. He, to me, doesn't really seem like a rookie. He holds himself like a veteran already, and that's what you want. That's what you want to see. He's already gelling with his teammates. He's already, him and John Gaines, who could very well be a starting center for this team this year, another rookie, they're already gelling really well. So it's just now we got to see what translates on the field. But so far, man, he really, really, really seems like he's got his head on his shoulders, really knows what he wants to do, and really is keen on really being a team player. And another guy, Michael Wilson from Stanford, wide receiver. I think he's going to be an underrated pick for these guys, just to the fact of we don't really know what's going on with DeAndre Hopkins. If he's not on this team, they're going to need some more pass catchers, and he could very well fill that void. He looks the part. He looks like he could be a difference maker in this offense. So that's definitely another guy. And then BJ Ojulari, I've got to pick him out too, because they need pass rushing help, and he could very well be a guy that could start day one, depending on how he translates through training camp. And then last but not least has got to be Clayton Tune, just because with the whole murkiness surrounding Kyler, this guy is a really accurate passer. He's mobile. He's different from a Colt McCoy, a Jeff Driscoll, a David Blau. He can actually move around. And I think that's something that Drew Petzing, the new offensive coordinator, is going to want to kind of mold around to maybe see hey, when Kyler comes back, we can drop him into this play and we can kind of get a similar look. So I'm really interested to see how they use him. I would not be surprised if he ends up, competing for a starting job at some point, just to the fact of, this is pretty much a redshirt year, if you will, for this team, just trying to get back to, back to a clean slate to really attack 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, so they're set up really nice for 2024. The sports bettors, and I'm not a sports bettor. I can't get into the betting. I'm not good at it, first off. So that's why I don't ever do it. If I'm going to lose money, it's not going to be on betting. It's going to be just me buying stupid stuff. But the bettors have the Texans at the second best odds of having the number one pick next year, and they have the Cardinals at the best odds of getting the number one pick next year. So potentially, because of that trade that the Cardinals did in the draft, with the Texans moving up to draft Will Anderson, you guys could land the number one and the number two picks in the draft, which I'm not mistaken, I don't think any team has ever had the first and second overall pick in the NFL draft. And the Cardinals have a quarterback. They got Kyler Murray. He's a really good quarterback. They just extended him, gave him a big contract. And you look at the draft next year, like there's two prime quarterback candidates at the very, very top. So there's a world where you could trade number 1 and number 2, get picks in the first round next year and beyond to set the Cardinals can set themselves up to where the next 2 or 3 years they have multiple first round picks. What's your thought on the potential for the 2024 draft and how the Cardinals have actually set themselves up for the future with potentially all this draft capital?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a huge win for Monty. First-time GM came in there. They got the tampering trade right before the draft starts. So it starts really, really rocky. But for him to turn around and do the wheeling and dealing that he did to still get the guy that they wanted and then pick up the picks too, I mean, you really got to give him a lot of credit for stepping in there. And I thought it was also interesting. He made all the trades with guys that he used to work for. So, it's always good to know somebody. But yeah, I thought he did great. And, looking forward, yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, those are the 1 and 2 in my eyes for the top 2 picks. And I mean, again, depending on what happens with Hopkins, I think why not go get at least Marvin Harrison Jr. And, you've got to see what's going on with Kyler. You've got to check that out. You've got to do your due diligence. Like when he comes back, what does he look like? Can he still run? Can he do the things that, make him who he is? And, I don't want to put the speculation out there that they're going to go take Caleb Williams, but you've got to look at it. You've got to really do your due diligence if you're Monty with these picks. And like you said, because if you're trying to trade, you're going to get a lot back from another quarterback needy team. And it's just all going to come down to who wants it more. But I really think, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a really, really good player. And if the Cardinals can somehow get that guy, I think that makes up a lot for the D-Hop, probably not going to be around soon.
Yeah. So Marvin Harrison Jr., I've got him as the best wide receiver probably in the last 2 draft class. So he would be the first wide receiver off the board if you combine the last 2 draft class. I'm like, this guy is going to be a stud and be able to trade back. First off, I'm a Dolphins fan at heart. So being able to trade back from 3 to 12 and then move up to 6. I've seen that done before. You still get your guy, which the Cardinals did as well. I'm a fan of that move. Just a huge fan. But yeah, as far as Marvin Harrison goes, if next year, if you guys do get the first and the second pick, like you can still trade back and still land Marvin Harrison Jr., which would be a wonderful, wonderful weapon for that team.
Yeah.
Let's jump right now into the Kyler Murray. So what is his injury stats? Like I know he's injured. He's not expected to start the season. If things start really, really bad for the Cardinals, will they just rest him? Will they just redshirt him the whole season? Or does this new coaching staff, new GM actually want to see what they have because of the potential of the 2 quarterbacks next year?
Yeah, you've got to – I think if it was the old regime and they started out rough, I don't think he would play. I really don't. I think just with how we've seen how they went about things the past couple of years, there was a lot of, hesitation with throwing him out there when they really didn't need to. So I could see that. I feel like this coaching staff wants to see what he's got. I think it's going to be it's definitely going to be a wait and see. It's going to be when he's mentally ready and physically ready. Like Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenford are not giving us timelines. I'll tell you that right now. No timelines. The only thing that we can tell you is that he's out on the side doing rehab during OTAs. Like that's really what I can tell you. What I am kind of expecting is a week 8-ish kind of range of a possible return, because then not only that, you get that second half of the schedule where it's a little bit easier. I think you've got you got like Browns, Atlanta, the Rams, and the Texans or something like that. And that maybe not in that order, but you've got a couple lesser teams where maybe you can kind of get back into a groove. So, and I think it'd be fun. I mean, week 8, Lamar versus Kyler would be great. So, because I believe Baltimore is playing them then. So that would be really cool to see. But that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think he's going to be ready at the beginning of the year. There's some people that are holding out hope, but I don't think he's getting any kind of work in training camp. I don't think he's starting the year. I think it's going to be Colt McCoy or Clayton Tune, to be honest. And then from there, kind of see what's going on. But I mean, based on how the roster's already constructed and just the projections, they're I mean, I think the over-under is 4.5 games or wins for him this year. So you got to take that into account. It could be a lost year, but you also need to get some kind of momentum out of your quarterback coming off of a career, altering injury like that, because I mean, he's never experienced something like that before. So you got to see where he's at. You got to see how he throws the ball. You got to see how he runs. You got to see how he meshes with everybody. It's a whole new system. It's a whole new team. You got to see how you work with your OC before, you really move into the offseason and see what's next, because that's very much going to be a storyline going into next year is, wow, if they do have those 1 and 2 picks, is what do they do? Do they really go for a quarterback and move on from Kyler, or do they trade that pick and make sure Kyler and they submit Kyler as their guy moving forward? It's right now.
I agree. You've got to see, especially with the new regime, you've got to see what you've got there. Speaking of what you got there, if you had to pick cornerstone players for the Arizona Cardinals currently on the roster, who would you label as cornerstone players?
Oh, well, I would say Budda Baker, but his current status is up in the air too with his trade request.
Well, I've got questions about him too.
Yeah. So I mean, he's a cornerstone for sure. I mean, if he sticks around, he's their cornerstone. Jalen Thompson, underrated guy. I think he's right there too. Some of these new guys, I think Paris Johnson could very well be that next, cornerstone on the line. Obviously, you've got Murray as the quarterback, which I think if you're paying that much, he has to be the cornerstone. And then, I think Cam Thomas. I think Cam Thomas is on his way to becoming one of those guys. I don't know if I can necessarily call him that right now, but he's already given me the vibe of a kind of a Zach Allen transformation. And we saw what Zach Allen did last year. And like I said, he was a cornerstone for this team moving into this year until he went elsewhere. So I think Cam Thomas could really take a step forward and be that next guy on the other side of the line that could really, boost the team's pass rush and just become a leader in his own right. And, and obviously I've got to give some credit to Zaven Collins too. That dude really stepped up last year, took the Mike Backer role and ran with it. I don't know if he's going to be a Mike Backer this year. I think he might be an edge guy. He might be an edge rusher. So it'll be interesting to see how he translates to that. If he really takes off, that's another guy that definitely could fit that mold.
You mentioned Budda Baker, and like I said, I do got some questions about him. Him and DeAndre Hopkins both have skipped OTAs so far, which I mean they just started, but they've skipped the OTAs. I know Budda wants a new contract. Personally, I think he deserves a new contract. DeAndre Hopkins, on the other hand, I don't know if he's going to be sticking around or not. What can you give us about the status of those two players specifically?
Yeah, the Hopkins one, I would say the trade chatter kind of quieted when he came out on Instagram and said, hey, who said I wanted to leave? Even though I think we all can all kind of point to who wanted to leave in the wide receiver. But, beyond that, I would say, it's kind of picked up again after his I Am Athlete podcast. I mean, he explained 3 things that you can really question if the Cardinals have it. Stable organization upstairs. Monty Ossenfort's in his new role. There's nothing against the guy, but he is a new GM in a new role. So you've got to really take into consideration what is going to happen there moving forward when, the times get tough. And, Hop mentioned, he's worked with past GMs. He's had a lot of turnover with GMs in the past couple of years. So that's definitely something to watch. And he also mentioned, having a quarterback that's on board, that wants to play, wants to get his team in there. And he backed it up and followed it up saying, Kyler's hurt right now and all that, but you still, you take some of that away too. And then the last one was having a great defense, which right now the Cardinals are really improving on that defensive side with just a lot of new bodies. So really, if you're looking at the checklist, there's not a lot you can check for the Cardinals at this point in time. So definitely stoked the fire for the talks there. And then, I think he even talked about the Bills and the Patriots, piqued his interest a little bit. And, he talked about playing for 5 different quarterbacks around the league. And, obviously it was teams, not the Cardinals. So he didn't mention Kyler, but still, I mean, not throw your guy out there is a little interesting. And then, so I definitely think it's going to come. I don't know if he's going to get dealt before the season starts, but I think it's going to come down to one of those AFC juggernauts is going to lose a guy or maybe fall back in the race and really need something to jumpstart, and they'll make a deal for him. Maybe the Bills. That's the team that sticks out to me right now. But when it happens, I couldn't tell you. Budda Baker, on the other hand, man, I would hope that they could come back together and get the extension, because I agree he deserves to stay around. He deserves to get an extension. But at the same time, you've also got to look. I mean, they want to build this new culture, and do you want to start the culture and the new regime off by giving the guy that's going to publicly say when it came out that he wanted a trade request? I mean, that's just, you've got to really take these things into account. If you're Monty, if you're Jonathan Gannon, if you're really trying to, reset this culture, and nothing against Buddha, but you just have to think about that. I mean, we can all see Buddha's heart and Buddha's drive to give everything he can to this team, but you've got to also look at that other side of the business side of things of, do we really want the optics of, having to maybe bow down to a player like this? And Buddha's different. I think he's in a different tier, but you really have to consider that with that thinking of, hey, we've got to really turn this culture around and really get going in a hurry.
The one thing I think of when I look at the Buddha Baker situation is if the organization is not willing to show loyalty to its current players and pay their and I consider Buddha a superstar. If they're not willing to pay their superstars properly, like that in the long run is going to hinder, them with other free agents looking at like, well, I don't know if I really want to go there because they don't even take care of their own. How are they going to, not take care of me when the time comes? So I think I'm not sure if bending the knee to Buddha is what it is, but man, that dude means so much to that defense and the organization. He could be him and Kyler could be the face of the organization.
Oh yeah.
I really hope that. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, he already is. I mean, he is the face. I mean, and I think, the big thing is when he didn't show up for when they didn't have him for the jersey reveal, the new jerseys, the new uniforms, that was kind of the first moment of like, whoa, there might be something a little more to this than just a little contract dispute. So it's definitely going to be something to watch. I hope he comes back. He's a super nice guy. He's a great dude with the media. I really respect the dude. And yeah, I mean, it's just really comes down to, do they see him in the future plans? I mean, you could even go down to the Isaiah Simmons route. I mean, what's going to happen with him? It's just a wild transition right now for this team of who are they really going to, build around.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting year for sure. They're being ran by, they got a new GM, they got a new head coach. Jonathan Gannon was brought in to replace Cliff Kingsbury. For those who don't know, Jonathan Gannon, he was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles for the last 2 years. What kind of play style is he looking to run in Arizona? Is it looking to do like, I want to say Eagles West, basically run it the same way the Eagles offense and defense was run in Philadelphia, or what can fans expect from Mr. Gannon?
Yeah, I think what people can expect is a lot of moving around, a lot of plug and playing. I think it's going to be a lot of just, we got to figure out who can play and who can't play. I think it's there. I mean, we've asked them every time, what's the defense looking like? Is it a 4-3? Is it a 3-4? And we get, yeah. So it's really going to go between, it's going to go back and forth. I mean, they're moving Zaven to the outside. They've got BJ Ojulari who can play on the outside. So it's very much could be a 4-3 type of system, but I also see them, not moving completely away from the 3-4. And then offensively, from what Zach Pascal said, it seems like it's a different system. It's going to be very much, they just want ball players that can be versatile and people that can move around. It's almost, I don't think to the extent, but I've kind of heard about the Falcons kind of, positionless players just kind of moving around. And I think that's kind of what they want to do here of like, hey, you can play here, you can play here, you can play here. Doesn't matter, whatever. If you fit here, we're going to put you here. Instead of, hey, you're going to play on the outside the whole game. Hey, you're going to play on the slot the whole game. So I think there's going to be a lot of versatility. I mean, their 4 pillars were violence, versatility, adaptability, and football character, football smarts. So really that is, it screams Philadelphia, but also I think there's a little bit more of a Gannon touch to it. And I think Petzing is really adding his own kind of twist to the offense that isn't going to really emulate, what we saw from Philly.
What will be like most teams have some sort of an identity. Like for example, Miami, for example, their identity apparently is speed.
Yeah.
You think of the Steelers. They got that defense. You always think of the defense. Like, what kind of identity is Coach Gannon trying to, or does he want to bring to the Cardinals?
I think it's going to be gritty. gritty versatility, just football character, high football smarts. I think it's really just going to be hard nosed, almost like the Detroit Lions model. Just that gritty, hard nose, hit you in the mouth, and then keep running. Like, I think that's really what it's going to be. It's going to be scrappy. It's going to be, they might not win a lot of games, but I think they're really going to play hard. I mean, every one of these rookies was either a captain or like a 3 or 4 year guy, 5-year guy who just screams, football character. And that was a big thing they've preached this whole offseason, is bringing in guys with football character. And, some of the free agents they brought in definitely show that too. So that is going to, I would say, yeah, I mean, really, if I had to pick a team that I think they're going to kind of follow in the footsteps, maybe not straight out of the gate wins losses type deal, I think they're going to kind of emulate Detroit Lions a little bit with Dan Campbell and trying to bite people's kneecaps off.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you really want to see from a team that, if they're not going to be good, at least you want to see the effort on the field, right?
Yes.
Like you can lose games, but not all losses are the same. Like, there's games where, you competed hard, you gave your best, but the team across from you was just more talented. And that's why you lost, versus, just going out there and not putting in the proper effort, not giving, the 100%, not really trying, just going through the motions because it's the end of the season, or the end of the season is 2 weeks away and you're already looking towards your next golf game or your vacation or whatnot. So the grit identity, I actually like that. I would have been more impressed if they would have come out with biting kneecaps. I understand that would have been plagiarism, but it still would have been cool to come out and see another team say, we want to bite the kneecaps. So I looked up Sharp Football Analysis. They got the Cardinals with the 22nd most difficult schedule in the league this year.
Okay.
When the NFL released their schedule, what stuck out to you the most?
For me, I think it was probably going to, I'll say it's got to be. It's the Gannon reunion, the Gannon revenge tour in Philadelphia. So that one's going to be really, really, really interesting. That's going to be one of the must-watch games, I think, just because everything that's come out of Philly has just been dogging this guy, and I feel like he's pretty much their Super Bowl scapegoat at this point. I mean, really, if we really get down to it, I really think that they are really piling on this guy, and so that's definitely one. I think that, that stretch I talked about earlier of those winnable games, those are going to be interesting. I think 3 or 4 games there could really shake either way, and you really have to think about it at that point. Second half of the season, do you want to go into the, hey, let's feel good about this going into next year, or hey, let's improve that draft stock? So it's going to be interesting. I think that Houston game is going to be something to watch too. It's a win-win for the Cardinals either way. I mean, if they tie, I think that's probably the best win for them, because then nobody wins. So that one's pure draft implication game. Obviously against Washington, I think they could go out there and make it a game. I really do in the season opener. So that one definitely caught my attention. I think they've got a terrible road slate right after that, though, with I think the Giants and Cowboys, and then the Niners are a little bit beyond that. Like, it's going to be tough. It's really going to be a gauntlet, and I mean, it's going to be cold too in Philly. It's going to be cold in Chicago, so they're going to get a lot of different environments, different just I think looks at everybody this year against a lot of good teams. I mean, Joe Burrow is going to be a really fun one. I got to see him when he got rocked when he was with LSU, when he got rocked by UCF in the I think with the Fiesta Bowl or something out here. I covered that game, so that'll be really interesting to see him back here, and probably have a better memory of him than getting absolutely destroyed. So those ones really stuck out to me the most, I think.
All right, and I've got one more question for you. Go ahead, and I'm actually gonna ask you to give me the record for both the Cardinals, and only because it's pertinent to the Cardinals. If you can give me just off the top of your head a record for the Texans.
Oh, okay.
I know the Texans ain't in your wheelhouse, but
no.
I'm just saying, like just a wild guess.
Okay, let's go with for me, so Cardinals right now are either 3 wins or 4 wins. I'm leaning more towards 4, but see, it's let's go with, I'm going to go 4 and 13 for the Cardinals. And I will go with, I'm going to go 5-12 for the Texans. I think they're one game better, just by one.
And I think honestly, I think both of those are, unfortunately, like, it's reasonable for both teams. This Cardinals team, honestly, if everything on paper is healthy, they are a way better team than the 4 wins that we would give them. But I think, given the situation, given the uncertainty with both Buda, DeAndre, not really sure when you're going to get Kyler back, and when he comes back, is it going to take him 2, 3, 4 games to get back into actual NFL game shape? Because there's a difference between shape and game shape. So I think unfortunately this is a rebuilding year for the Cardinals, but I also think, like, the future for this team is really, really bright, like super bright. So with that, I have no more questions for you. We try to keep these to about 30 minutes. We're pushing 32 right now. Tyler, I do want to thank you again for coming on and talking Cardinals with me. Why don't you go ahead again, tell everybody else where they can follow you, where you do all your work, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here.
Yeah, definitely. So Tyler Drake, catch me over at Arizona Sports. I jump on the radio every once in a while. I also got a podcast. It's called Cardinals Corner. Me and my buddy co-host Eric Ruby, we try to get one out every week, usually after I get back from the field or practice, wherever I'm at. But you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at tdrake4sports, the number 4. And definitely let me know what you think. I'm always down to get some feedback. So anything you got for me, send it my way. And thanks again for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. And with that, I hope everybody has a great night.